All right, it's time to skol with the enemy.
Woo!
Here we go.
I love when you're trying to find the button and you're like, do I just stand here and smile awkwardly? Hello. Oh, you're muted.
All right, welcome back
There
to
we
Onebar
go.
and
Hi,
Lupagus
I'm
show.
Joe. I'm your host for the Onebar and Lupagus show, SKOL'ing with...
Joe, you settle the hell down.
Sorry, man.
All right. All right, we're skåling with the enemy. I am Lupagus here with Joe from the Cardinal Rule. Familiar face to all you guys. He was here last year. We scolded, and the Cardinals got the best of that one, but this year I'm hoping things go a little bit different. Before we hop into Joe and talk a little Cardinals, Vikings, remember this video is brought to you by Liftbridge Brewing Company. Hit them up. I've got a delicious mango blonde right here in my hand. And also, hashtag 8,000 in the comments. We're almost there to 8,000 subscribers. Joe, how the hell are you?
I'm good, man. I mean, I'm better than my team right now, which is, not saying much. But yeah, no, life's good. Living the dream, man. How about you?
I'm good. You damn near commandeered my intro, so I'm all flustered right now trying to recover from that. No, I'm doing good. Doing good. Again, Vikings are 5-1. How can I not be doing good?
Well, they could have beaten a team that matters. Oh, sorry. Did I go there?
You know what? You can only beat who's on your schedule, all right?
That's fair. That's fair.
All right, let's get started. So my big thing, I'm not going to lie and say I've been following the Cardinals all year long, but who the hell are the 2022 Arizona Cardinals?
They're a second half team, apparently, which they weren't last year. The first half of games, they have just been sluggish. The offense hasn't been able to get anything going. Giving up a lot more points in the first half than they have in the second, scored a lot fewer in the first half than the second. So they're a team that is just really struggling to get off the ground, but they're a team that seems to do okay at making adjustments because they've done much better in the second half. They're a team that just got DeAndre Hopkins back and put up a 40 burger on the Saints, on Thursday night, a night when no one can score more than 7 points, 18 points. I mean, Thursday night sucks, right? So they're a team that we're trying to figure out, are they turning the corner with Hopkins back and getting ready to go on a run and, go from being a 3-4 team to a playoff contender, or are they going to slip back into being that team that's just sluggish? And it's a pivotal point. I mean, they had a really nice game, especially, getting some points on offense. Now we're going to face, a 5-1, Vikings team. As much as I took a pot shot about your schedule, you guys are 5-1. You've beaten the teams in front of you, except for the Eagles, which are a really good team, right? So it's a big test for the Cardinals to see, kind of where they are with Hopkins back.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Hopkins about 6 times there, because my next question was this. What is this team's record with DeAndre Hopkins there from week 1?
Well, without him?
No, with him there. Like if he was there week 1 this year,
okay,
what would the record be? No, we know what it is without. It's 3-4.
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay, so I don't think they beat the Chiefs. That they got their ass kicked against the Chiefs, 44-20, whatever it was. They obviously beat the Raiders. I think they beat them, except without having to rely on an overtime play. I think they beat the Eagles. I mean, they were a field goal away from tying that one. Mm-hmm. I think the Rams is a toss-up. I say they're like I think they're like 4-2. 4-2. With Hopkins. There's some of those games that they just made late, stretch or late pushes and got close and just it wasn't enough. And I think he extends some of the they have those drives that just stall out on third down, especially in the first half. And I think he keeps those going. And I think they're 4-2 with him if they had him all year so far.
Okay. Fair enough. And I want to ask you about your quarterback, Kyler Murray. I have him in a fantasy league. I'm in like 6 fantasy leagues, but he just doesn't seem like he's not lighting up my stat sheet.
Yeah.
How is he to you? How is his progression? How has he been? Because, when we played him last year, the dude was on fire, chucking the ball down the field, scampering away from pressure. Then it seemed like he really regressed later. Like it was tough to watch. How has he been this year?
He hasn't been as good as he was any of his first 3 years. To the eye test, it's not like he's making a ton of really bad throws. He's got a couple interceptions. It just feels like a lot of games are going. He's moving the ball. and then a penalty and a 3rd and long, and it just doesn't work out, or a bad play on 4th down. What I think is going on with Kyler right now is, as you probably heard people talking about, there's been some shifts in terms of how defense is playing this year. They're blitzing less across the league, and they're playing more cover 2 and high, shells, defensive coverages, and they're taking away those deep passes, right? They're trying to make offenses dink and dunk, right? Try to hit stuff underneath. And this Cardinals offense with Kyler, and maybe this is a strength and a weakness, is they're good at those big plays typically, but they rely on them a little too much at the same time, I think, historically. So in my opinion, what's going on is that they are having a hard time adjusting to what defenses are doing this year. And as you know, offense is down across the league in part because of that. And I think this offense in particular leaned on those big plays that Kyler could extend the play and then find someone downfield. And he's struggling. So when they're having to dink and dunk it and matriculate the ball down the field, they get a penalty, they get a 3rd and long, and it stalls out. So I think that's what's going on now with Hopkins back, who I mentioned 72 times so far, I think. It seems like maybe they can keep those drives going and then maybe hit a few of those big plays. But he's had a rough year. He absolutely has. But to the eye test, he doesn't, I don't know, like he's not throwing tons of turnover worthy throws. There's a few here and there. He looks like Kyler. It just looks like the deep plays aren't developing right now.
I'm sorry, you lost me after you said matriculate. What was that?
Yeah, sorry.
All right, so it's just not me. It's not just my fantasy. He just hasn't been the Kyler early last year. All right, fair enough. So I read something on Twitter. This was actually before the Saints-Cardinals game, that if Kliff Kingsbury lost that game, there was a chance he was actually going to be fired before the team went to Minnesota. And I hate that, because every time a team's playing for a new coach, they always play harder. How hot? I mean, how hot is his seat? Is there really that much heat on Kliff Kingsbury?
I don't think he's on that kind of a hot seat right now. I think that's a lot of media narratives and fan narratives. The owner signed him and the GM to a 5-year extension, I think it was, this offseason through 2027. And I know that doesn't guarantee a job. We saw Matt Rule got, shown the door with a whole lot left on his contract. But, the owner, Michael Bidwell, from what I've seen from him over the years, he does not strike me as a person who's going to fire someone mid-season unless there's a scandalous situation, especially someone he just extended. This ownership group is not like the Cronkies that own the Rams that have some big business to bankroll, right? They own the Cardinals, right? So they have to be a little more careful with their money than some other ownership groups. So I think even if they lost every game for the rest of this year, I don't think there would be a move until after the season. So in terms of his seat being hot, I don't think it's hot right now as much as people want to say it is. I know he's, on all the betting odds for the next coach to get fired, he's near the top of that list. I just don't see a move happening during the season. And, and I think they're going to turn things around enough that it's not likely to happen in either way. Will he be in the hot seat at the end of the season? I mean, if they end up with 5 or 6 wins, yeah. But I just think with the investment that the ownership has put in terms of contractually, I don't think they're going to be quick to move off of Kliff Kingsbury this year.
All right. Again, I'm here with Joe from the Cardinal Rule. Links will be in the description below for Twitter, for his YouTube channel. You know what? Give him a subscription. Harass him this week. Why not? Why not? A few more days till the game starts. You can get on there and bug him. So I don't know if you saw this, but there was this really specific rumor. I think it was like a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. The Vikings were wanting to trade for an NFC West tight end. I mean, just kind of random there. But if it was that tight end was coming from the Cardinals, who do you think is most likely to get moved from the 3 you have on your depth chart?
Well, that's tough because they obviously extended Zach Ertz. He hasn't had the best season, but he's been fairly consistent. They've got 2nd round pick Trey McBride. They're not going to trade a 2nd round pick, who they just drafted. McBride's not doing much, but as you know, tight ends take a couple years to kind of find their way. They're not moving him. Max Williams has been injured. Then they put him on the practice squad. So if they wanted him, they just go sign him. So the only other guy is Steven Anderson, who's more of a special teams ace kind of a guy. And, he's just a depth guy. It's just a guy. So, I don't think that tight end that they were targeting was on this NFC West team. It's
We didn't
none of
either.
them make sense. Yeah,
We didn't either.
I would guess Seattle. They've got a couple guys.
Yeah, we
that
were
are
looking at
playing
with
nicely.
Will Disley is what we were thinking about. But
Yeah.
all right, just want to run that by you, see what your opinion was on that.
Yeah.
All right, so give me one like sneaky name on the Cardinals no one's talking about. Maybe a guy who's playing really well under the radar, kind of it's a sneaky player on those pesky Cardinals.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we're all talking about him. I just don't know if y'all are hearing about him. But Zach Allen, he is an interior defensive lineman. He was a 3rd-round pick out of Boston College. He's on the last year of his rookie deal. He's had a few injury problems throughout his season, but the guy has been a beast. He's a little bit like of a mini JJ Watt. He's kind of a little bit built like him, just a little bit smaller, similar type of player, just not at the same level. They really liked him when they drafted him, his potential, and he showed flashes, but he's just put it together. He's grading in the 70s in PFF. He's got 2 or 3 sacks, I think, on the interior. He's getting pressure, batted balls. He is just playing really well, and he's playing well against the run. Our interior defensive line is one of the areas that going into the season, I and many other fans thought was probably our weakest area. Watt's, obviously we know who Watt is, but there's injury problems. And then Allen is who we have. And then Rashard Lawrence, who's been banged up, who's a nice player. But behind that, after that, we just don't have anyone that's noteworthy. And Zach Allen has been a pleasant surprise. And, the interior defensive line's still a little thin for us, right? It's not enough depth there, but he has played really well. And, the Cardinal, it's a contract year, so you picked a good year to do that. And we're all really hoping that the Cardinals extend him and keep him around.
Zach Allen. All right, we'll watch him. Hopefully he doesn't line up over Ed Ingram, who's been struggling as of late.
Yeah. I noticed that.
But the O-line's been much better from left to right for the Vikings this year. So Garrett Bradbury, I don't know what hell happened there, but the guy cannot suddenly play football. All right, so the flip side of that, who's someone who goes on the field like, oh, shit, here we go again. This guy's out there. Basically, you're Shannon Sullivan.
Right. Boy, so it's got to be Sean Harlow. He's probably not going to be playing. He's our third string center right now, but he actually he had something earlier this year that I have never seen. He had a PFF blocking grade or pass blocking grade of 0 in a game.
0.
Yeah, 0.
Don't even show up.
I didn't know that was possible. So he's a former 4th-round pick from Atlanta. He was a guard. We've converted him to a center. He's been kind of our backup center. And, with Rodney Hudson has kind of been banged up. And so he's out. We ended up signing Billy Price, former 1st-round pick off of the Raiders practice squad, who started for us this last game and actually played really well. But yeah, Sean Harlow is the guy that no Cardinals fan wants to see on the field right now.
Well, how is you guys got these O-line. I'm looking at your depth. I mean, there's players I wanted in the draft. I mean, whether it's Will Hernandez, I saw Billy Price in there. You got what's his name, Cody Ford. I mean, these guys who just, are all these guys just busts or what's going on? It's
interesting that the Cardinals do seem to like going after guys that have that draft pedigree that just didn't work out. And I'm actually a fan of taking that approach because those guys clearly have the physical tools to get drafted that high, but something to work out. So like Will Hernandez has been great for us. He's grading pretty well, somewhere around upper 60s. Our offensive line coach is his college coach. Sean Kugler was his coach at I think it was at UTEP. So he's been reunited with his college coach. He's been nice for us. Cody Ford, played with Kyler at Oklahoma, so we traded for him. He's been injured. This was his first game back. He stepped in after our other backup Max Garcia got injured. Had a nice game. It was a little bit rough on the run blocking, but he had for just coming off the IR played well. And Billy Price had a pass blocking grade of 83.4.
Wow.
Run blocking wasn't as good. So yeah, like right now, going to this next game, I imagine it looks like Hudson's probably not going to play. Our entire interior offensive line are all these reclamation projects that you're talking about, but they're playing pretty well for us. So, it's worked out thus far this season.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, there's just a ton of them. It's crazy. So, all right. So look at the Vikings here this Sunday. What's one, looking at the Vikings roster, what they've done so far this year, what's one area of the Vikings that kind of worries you the most when it comes to the Cardinals' weaknesses?
I think that the pass rush is a concern. Our offensive line has played pretty well against the pass, but we've got those guys that are Ford and Price are going to be in their second game starting. So that's a big concern. I know we were talking a little beforehand that your pass rush hasn't lived up to what you had hoped, but with guys like Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter, that's always a threat. And if they can put that pressure on Kyler, that's gonna stymie our offense. So that's probably the thing I'm most concerned with. That and Dalvin Cook. I mean, we struggle against the run, and he gashed us last year. But interestingly enough, you have a couple great receivers, obviously, but like the Cardinals have actually done pretty well against receivers. Like I tweeted this out last week. Only one opposing wide receiver has had a 100-yard game against the Cardinals this year. Now, tight ends, a few have, right? I mean, Kelsey. But like Chris Olave last week had 7 receptions for 106 yards. No one else had a 100-yard receiving game against the Cardinals in terms of receivers. And like let me bring you just a couple of the notable receivers. Like Devontae Adams, 2 for 12 and 1 touchdown. Cooper Kupp, 4 for 44, no touchdowns. AJ Brown, 3 for 32, no touchdowns. DK Metcalf, 2 for 34, no touchdowns. Tyler Lockett, 2 for 17, no touchdowns. Like, that's what our defense has done. We don't have like a star cornerback you look at and you're like, oh, that's the guy. But something about, our defensive scheme I think our safeties, who are really good, has done a good job of containing those receivers. So, I know like that would, I think, going this game, obviously, as if I were a Vikings fan, Jefferson and Thielen are the guys, that, you really want to lean on, and they could have a really good game, but going to this, based on what we've seen this season, the Cardinals have done a good job of containing those receivers. So it's probably the running back that on the offensive side that's going to be the bigger concern for the Cardinals.
Okay. Well, I mean, maybe you already answered this next question with what you just said, but I was going to say that the kind of the flip side of that. So what's a matchup you like? I mean, Cardinals versus Vikings in your favor?
I'll go with something a little bit different because, I mean, I wouldn't say we've done well against those receivers, but I don't know. I'd say that's strongly in our favor. It's more like we've managed to hold on. Yeah. But the guy I mentioned earlier, Zach Allen against Ed Ingram, right? Your rookie right guard out of LSU. Got, if he's starting as a rookie, I think there's some nice promise, but he's struggling right now, particularly against the pass, right? His pass blocking grade is 39.1, but his run blocking grade is pretty good, right?
It's not zero. It's not
zero. He is no Sean Harlow.
He's no Sean Harlow.
He is no Sean Harlow. But looking at that, I think that's the matchup. If you're a Cardinals fan, between Zach Allen and JJ Watt, you hope that those two guys can take advantage of your rookie right guard and get to Kirk Cousins and take him off schedule.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and Ingram, I'm hoping the bye is helping him, but he is, rookies are up and down. He's definitely in a down streak right now. Really got schooled against the Dolphins. Some pretty silly moments there watching him get spun around. So before I ask you the last question here, how many times have you watched a clip of is it Andy Dalton and your Cardinal guys flying in the background?
Marco Wilson.
I watched that thing probably 20 times myself, laughed about every single time. That thing
I have watched that probably 87 times. I posted a meme on Twitter because I'm also a Suns fan. So yeah. I took some Photoshop and I took him and took a picture of Draymond Green getting dunked over.
Okay.
And I turned it into Marco Wilson dunking over Draymond Green. So yes, I have seen that a few times and maybe Photoshopped it into a few things.
It's like a dog jumping off the dock to go get his little toe. It's crazy. I love it. It's so funny.
It's perfectly framed because you see Dalton like, oh shit, and then all of a sudden behind, it couldn't be more perfect.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. Again, I'm here with Joe from the Cardinal Rule. Again, give him a follow. Links will be in the description below. So how do you see this thing playing out? You don't have to give me a score prediction, but Cardinals coming to Minnesota. How do you see this thing going?
So part of me feels like the universe owes you one because last year's game, listen, I looked at the game and the way it ended, and I'm a believer that you just take the wins and the losses, even if they don't go your way. I didn't come out of there feeling confident that we, obviously we won because of a field goal that y'all missed. That was, I know, kind of a gut punch for you, but I feel like the universe is like going to want to write that. So I've got this bad feeling that no matter what happens, the Cardinals could have a really good game and the universe is going to try to write that and we're going to lose at the end. The Vikings are favored and should be. They're 5-1. They've been better than the Cardinals this year, but the question is, are the Cardinals are they turning that corner or not? Right. As a Cardinals fan, I want to pick them to win, but I think it's going to be close, and the universe is probably going to lean in the favor of the Vikings.
Well, that's been the way the season's gone so far. So
yeah,
I'm sitting here thinking the flip side is going to start one of these days. We're not going to start winning these close games. We'll see. I think it's going to be a close game, though.
Yeah. And I think you guys are going to run on us a lot. That's what I think. I think that's going to be happening.
All right. Well, I hope so. I hope we do. I hope you're right. All right, Joe, again, good talking to you again. Great catching up. Thanks for SKOL'ing with us. We better have one last sip here before we let this thing go.
Here's to you.
Boom. Heck
Boom.
yeah. All right. All right. Again, follow them. The Cardinal Rule. Great channel. You guys Twitter handle right there. Very easy to get on there and give Joe some shit until game day. All right, guys, that is it. That is this end of this SKOL'ing with the enemy. Remember, always keep your skull in your hole.